debt. We all got it, we all hate it, and all of us could live without it. American debt, personal debt, your debt, let's get real, 'cause it sucks. But here we are, all poor as shit, 'cause of our debt. Let's get the stats out of the way. Then we'll move on to the different types of debt. Then we'll touch on the history of your debt, how debt occurs, how others around the world compare to us when it comes to their debt, and we'll finish up with some ways you can imagine on how you can fight your debt. Now, just right off the bat, when it comes to personal debt, Google confuses the shit out of me because is it $66,000, $11,000, and $652, or is it $22,730 fucking dollars? I don't know what the average debt is, but whatever your debt is, it depends on things like demographics, occupation, tax status, and even your marriage status. But mostly it has a lot to do with your age, which makes a lot of sense because the more time you have to collect debt, the more you're going to have. Now, you know, as I do, there are different kinds of debts, and we'll talk about them in a minute or two. But know this, all debts combined, the average American owns around, $100,000 worth of debt, give or take. I may not be able to lay down the exact cost of your debt. I can tell you that debt here in America has grown by a lot. And to understand that growth, you kind of have to understand the history of debt. Believe it or not, before the Civil War, most Americans didn't carry a lot of personal debt. But I will say, there just isn't a lot of data that was kept before the Civil War about anybody who owed what? But we all kind of know who ended up in prison back in the day, because if they owed money to somebody and couldn't pay, we put people in prison for not paying their debt. And yeah, we actually built prisons for them, and we called them debtors' prison. And that's probably why people back in the day didn't borrow a lot of money from people. Because, with a cell full of rat food waiting for you, it just wasn't worth a fiver. Congress abolished debt prisons and the concept of sending people to prison over a debt back in 1833. Now, the Civil War was only a couple of 3 decades down the road, and as a result of the Civil War, government debt exploded, creating economic instability. Paper money was reintroduced, which made it easier to borrow money, especially a 20 between friends. Americans went into debt, and it just kept getting worse. And here we are today. And it's a good segue, because I said it was a good segue into the types of loans there are. Now, right off the definition springboard, we all know, but maybe you don't know, that every loan is either a secured loan, backed by your house, car, cat, or wife, and the other is an unsecured loan, where the promise to pay it back is usually found at the bottom of a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer can. At least ways among his friends it is. And then you gotta decide how you want to use your money. You want to use it like a credit card? That's what we call a revolving loan. Mostly because you spin in circles when you see how you're getting royally screwed. Just because you need your teeth fixed. And bad teeth is only one reason people all over America go into debt. Be it money for college, or car repair, or God forbid, owing the IRS. Debt in America is a way of life. And compared to Europe, personal debt here in the U.S. is higher due to our reliance on credit cards. But it's higher in Denmark, Norway, and Switzerland. That's a good thing. I'd like to finish this up with a bit of personal experience. Years back, I had debt problems, and the credit collectors were just friggin' unbearable. And the less they go to, let me just add this in, bill collectors, they ain't exactly the best that humanity has to offer. Of course, the easiest way to get out of debt is just pay it. But the American system is not designed to relieve you of your debt. It's there to increase it. But one way to shut up those calling is for you to submit a verification letter. Read up on verification letters. And you run into a couple of other tricks you can do as well. But remember, you owe the debt, you're responsible for it. Enjoy that, my friends. Excuse me, I'm just staring out the window in deep thought. about the time when I was in a lot of debt. And that was when we were first married and starting our family. And that debt lasted for about the first 20, 25 years, maybe 30 years of our marriage, which means for the last 10 years it's been pretty good. But I tell you what, you cannot live in this nation without going in debt. I'm sorry, you can't. I mean, even if you want to buy a piece of land out in bumfuck India, you still got to pay for it, and that means going in debt, unless you got cold hard cash. If you have cold hard cash, it's because you're rich. Nobody has cold hard cash these days. Anyway, that's the bottom line about the beautiful thing about America, isn't it? We're all in the same boat together. Sure be nice if we had some politicians that help us out, but that's a different story for a different time. 30, 40 years down the road, maybe, I don't know. But I ain't gonna be the one telling it. Peace out, my friends. Love you. Thank you. Oh, that